say to everyone watching, please, please, we don't want to give anybody sleepless nights. We don't want to start panic. Don't let your imaginations run riot.
In the early 90s, the horror industry would undergo an evolution, a new subgenre that would grow into popularity, that being found footage. Starting in the 80s with Cannibal Holocaust, the premises of found footage is pretty straightforward, that being footage that has been found. Now what makes a movie found footage? Basically, any movie that is seen from the point of a handheld camera. This can also extend to games as well. Take Outlast, a game in which you, a reporter, take a whistleblowing invitation to a shady mental facility to uncover the malicious underbelly the asylum holds. And even though you have more than enough information to blow the lid off of this place, you decide to continue on anyway. But it's okay, because this video will end up on the trending tab surely. In its early days, found footage movies have often found themselves falling into controversies, Cannibal Holocaust being a big target in of itself, getting banned outright for many years due to people believing it to be a movie containing actual murder due to how realistic it looked. The court case itself would have the actors appear as evidence for them not being dead. Found footage movies have often found themselves at a crossroad, either being the most convincing movie you've ever seen, or whatever that one Slender movie was.
Hello? Who is this?
It's a genre that has become beyond stale at this point, but occasionally there are some diamonds in the rough. However, in the 90s, found footage brought many influential changes to horror as a genre that can still be seen even today. The main movie that comes to mind though when you think of found footage is probably 1999's Blair Witch Project. A supernatural horror where a bunch of teenagers go to Blair to do a documentary on the witch, which goes horribly wrong. The marketing for this movie was amazing, with the cast being told to avoid the public eye after the movie was released in order to sell the idea of it being real, essentially creating the first ARG. ARG meaning alternate reality game, which is a story that uses the real world as a platform, using social media to do so, the two most popular being YouTube and Twitter. No, I'm not calling it X Elon Musk guy. I will not do it. You cannot make me. Movies selling themselves as real for marketing purposes, no surprise. But what if a movie goes the extra mile and disguises itself as a fake documentary with real news presenters and reporters playing themselves? Well, in 1992, the world would be introduced to being a part of the Screen One anthology series written by Stephen Volk and directed by Leslie Manning. Ghostwatch, I would say, falls into found footage itself, with a lot of aspects being pretty influential to the horror genre. You can definitely feel its presence in other movies, like The Conjuring, Insidious, and the one I've always seen comparisons drawn for with this, Late Night with the Devil, where a late-night TV show broadcaster interviews a possessed woman, and over the course of the movie, the line between reality and something more sinister is gradually teetered. You can easily draw comparisons between the two, both being late-night broadcasts, both delving into supernatural, and both falling under found footage. But I think I've spent enough time talking about these different movies, so let's get into the plot of this one. This is Ghostwatch. The movie begins with the late BBC presenter Michael Parkinson welcoming us to Ghostwatch, a new show dedicated to proving the existence of ghosts, and their first case being the most infamous haunting in the UK, that being the fictional Foxhill Drive in Northolt, a suburb of Greater London, where a family of 3 has been dealing with a supernatural entity tormenting them in their home. He provides us footage of the home, and we already get a glimpse of something being very wrong. Ignoring the things being thrown and the lamps exploding. That's just normal for the UK. A figure is seen towering over the girls, in front of the left curtain. Nobody seems to notice the figure, and the introduction goes on. He introduces us to Lynn Pascoe, played by Gillian Bevan, the paranormal expert. As he explains, there'll be a call-in number for users to give their own individual ghost stories, before bringing us to the house, where we see Craig Charles, playing himself, who serves as the funny man for the movie. Someone who eases the tension when it gets razor sharp. He welcomes the watcher to the haunting location of Foxhill Drive, and introduces us to the mother, Pam Early, played by Britt Brennan. We go back to the main studio where the call location is revealed, giving us a number to call to give our ghost stories. The funny thing is about this number was that you could actually call it, although doing so at the time would reveal that the story you were watching is fictitious. However, the number would still allow callers to give their own ghost encounters, with the idea of them being potentially chosen as plots for the next movie in the anthology. And we see Mike Smith, worried about his wife, Sarah Green, being in the house. Both of these play themselves, and in real life, these two are actually married. Sarah plays the role of the confident reporter, eager to get the story, although throughout the documentary we can see that confidence slowly crumble as she encounters more and more extraordinary events. Charles interviews the Early family, who gives us an overview of the chaos that they endure.
Plates, teapots, cups, a broken tap. We got this thick smell, so disgusting, from the tap. Stains got on clothes from nowhere, out of thin air. So many things have happened. Everybody said it was impossible. I said, great, you come and live with impossible.
Joining Pam is their two daughters, Suzanne and Kim, played by Michelle and Charisse Wesson, respectively. We get a good back and forth from Sarah and Craig. I really love the dynamic between these two. And like mentioned before, the fact that these two are married definitely helps with their chemistry. The Ghostwatch crew shows off some of the tech that they have in the van, as well as showing us that they have placed multiple cameras all around the home. But one of the more important things is the infrared camera, which has to be the earliest time that I've actually seen this tech used in a movie. Even when there's nothing on screen, just seeing this camera view is somewhat off-putting if you ask me. With a few more introductions to minor crew members, we suck up our fears and enter the home. Before we delve deeper into the home, Sarah speaks with the audience, giving an introduction to the house. As she goes into the kitchen, we see the two girls apple bobbing, and while they get to know each other, the studio gets their first call in. The caller mentions how they think they saw a woman in the original footage, shown just above the curtain.
You know, at the beginning, when you showed the real footage of that haunted bedroom, well, I know it was dark, but I was sure I could see a figure standing behind against the wall, just by the curtain. Very, very vague, but definitely a figure there. A woman, a person's body at least, standing there in a black dress.
The same figure we picked up on at the start. But while the footage is being retrieved from the studio, we go back to Foxhill, where we see Sarah joining in on the two girls' apple bobbing. However, this nice little moment is cut short by a jump scare. After the laugh ensues from that situation, she follows the family upstairs into the girls' bedroom, where she talks with them a little bit, and eventually, they reveal the first time that they actually encountered the ghost.
I was in bed. Mum came in to tuck me in. Instead, she just stood by the bed, looking at me. At least I thought it was her. And then she just turned and went.
The thing is, I didn't tuck them in that night. I always do. But that night, I fell asleep in front of the television. I told her she must have been dreaming. Then a few days later, it was my room.
Although Pam is quick to chalk this down to just the pipes, to ease the tension of the children. Because of this would dawn the name of the spirit, Pipes. Sarah asks the youngest daughter, Kim, where Pipes is, and she points towards the curtain. The exact same curtain that we saw the apparition stand by. Sarah asks Kim if this is where Pipes lives, to which Kim responds no. When asking whereabouts he lives, she takes Sarah downstairs into the glory hole. Yes, I know, haha, glory hole. But just for the rest of this video, because YouTube might be watching my channel like a hawk now that I'm part of the partner program, I'm gonna just refer to this thing as the cubby hole. She admits that she's seen Pipes before, and that she's even drawn a picture of him.
How he looked when you saw him?
Yeah, he was disgusting.
One strange thing Mon might pick up on is that Kim really doesn't feel all that spooked by Pipes, and is pretty gleeful to talk about him. It seems that there are two entities, the mysterious woman in front of the curtain and Pipes, but maybe these two are one and the same. More on that later. After she's sent to bed, Sarah and Pam talk about how she went to the council for help, which is arguably more scary than an actual ghost sighting, if you know what I'm saying. The mighty son! The council, of course, would deny these requests, while also requesting the family gets therapy. Truly the Twitter response of all time. So instead, she decides that there's no better choice than to go to the media, who is also more skeptical than believing, clearly having a more malicious idea on how to paint the family to the public.
I believe in the devil, says Spook House Mother. Did you say that?
No, I didn't.
Finally, we get that starting footage back up again, and that figure once again shows up. Although the doctor and Michael chalk it up to pareidolia, which is to perceive a shape or a face in something where it otherwise wouldn't be. For example, if you were to look up at the clouds, you may see a bird, you may see a plane, you may see a bunch of different faces, you may see a bunch of different animals, all of which isn't actually there. They discuss the footage a little bit more, with Pam eventually being taken out of the house and into one of the set's vans, which has a mini studio inside, so she can join in on any of the call-ins. Speaking of which, we actually get another one, who tells her experience with a spirit, things being broken, objects being moved, among other things. And I would like to say I love Michael in this movie. He's clearly playing a skeptical host who's still open enough to the idea of ghosts, and is willing to take in the proof. It also doesn't help that he's constantly mogging throughout the whole documentary. After the first caller recounts her story, Lynn recollects on our time inside of the home, where she actually has an audio recording containing the sounds of utter chaos. We hear plates smashing, screaming, and things being broken. The audio then cuts to Lynn actually speaking with Pipes.
What's your name? Jesus Christ, are you joking?
Who responds the same way every middle-aged UK pensioner would. While the track plays on, we see a figure slowly materialize in the background. This being Pipes, watching over everyone, admiring the terror that he's causing. She also admits that she tried to get Susan to replicate the voice, although she is unable to do so.
She can't do it.
No, even under hypnosis.
She also provides a tub filled with glass that had been destroyed inside the home. However, Lynn does mention that the glasses were broken via temperature change and not brute force, citing that she went to the army for this information.
The army did some analysis of this for us, and they said it had been caused by intense temperature change.
Rummaging through all of these glasses, the one thing that I think really caught my eye was a white ornament of a woman in a dress, the head of which has been snapped off. I think this is probably caused by the ghost in a fit of anger or hatred for the statue, leaving only the dress. Who knows? And then there is the cuts on Susan's face. Now, due to this depicting gore on someone who looks around 12, there's a really high chance that I probably can't show this on YouTube. And due to this causing some controversies, which I will touch upon later in the video, I will just go ahead and add a light blur to it whenever it appears on screen. I'm sorry, but I kind of just have to. But to describe it, it looks like a cat went absolutely wild on her face. That didn't sound very good. It looks like a rabid cat just went absolutely nuts, leaving loads of cuts all over her face. Pascoe even adding that she saw these cuts appear in real time when she was with the family. She also hypothesizes the poltergeist focusing on Suzanne could be due in part to her going through puberty, as spirits tend to attach themselves to more emotionally vulnerable people. And who is more emotionally vulnerable than a young girl hitting puberty? Get out of here, Lion Maker. Fuck out of here. Because this is a ghost documentary on the BBC, though, you have to have a skeptic on here to argue with Lynn. So they call Dr. Emilio Silvestri, who is quick to call everything shown fake. They argue back and forth, with Silvestri dropping this absolute banger of a response.
Your belief system is blanket denial.
That old chestnut. Look, Lynn, you ought to be selling crystals on Venice Beach, or a palm reading. A counselor, a confidant, a guide, maybe, but scientist, I don't think so.
After that fire bar gets dropped, we go back to Fox Hill, where Sarah is playing board games with the two daughters, both of which not being very happy with how their story was labeled. And with some prodding from Michael, Sarah actually ends up giving her own recollection of a ghost event that she had, and admits that this single experience is what made her want to be on Ghostwatch. She puts Kim to bed, as Suzanne chooses to stay downstairs and watch TV. Now with Kim in bed, they all feel like they deserve a good bit of brew.
Big mug of my foot up your...
However, while this is going on, the mic handler actually notes that his watch stopped the moment that they stepped inside of the house. While they make their coffee, we get another ghost story from a man who has his face blurred out. After that, we're taken back outside of the home to Craig as he interviews Pan's neighbors, who notes that they also seen supernatural stuff happening from their houses. They also admit to letting the Earlys stay in their home if they ever need to leave, due to the increasing paranormal issues. They also mention a few oddities that happen in the area too, like a young girl disappearing, a knife crime, yes I know, Britain, haha, not in Birmingham, shut up! And at one point, a pregnant Labrador being found disemboweled in the street up in the play park. Craig also interacts with a man who attempted to exorcise the home to little success, citing the building as giving off an evil aura, noting his hands being drenched in the stink of blood, which would persist for a week. The smell would drive him sick. They are interrupted by trick-or-treaters, but before he lets them speak, he's cut off by Michael, as Sarah's been trying to get their attention because of a new situation inside of the home.
Got a second let's play, let's go.
And we're gonna be playing some Spooky's Jump Scare Man. Yeah, look at that guy's face. This game got lots of walking, looking for the ghost, and oh, right in the skulljillies. And 80% of the game, you're pretty much just talking to the ghost and looking through screen. Identify the ghost type? What is it, lost or something? Where'd this ghost learn to haunt Luigi's mansion? And I gotta say, those graphics are just beautiful. And with all the evidence we've seen so far, I think the ghost has to be... oh well, see you next time.
Back inside the house, Suzanne now in bed, Sarah shows us a small, perfectly circular wet patch on the floor. Lynn adds how a stain this circular would be impossible to do with a glass spillage. She's instructed to see if there's any liquid coming from the lights, saying as the puddle is directly underneath the chandelier. However, the chandelier is completely dry. Upon hearing this, Lynn requests for her to smell the stain, Well, she does request to soak it up in a towel and see if it smells. It doesn't. She then requests for her to get a sample of the liquid, and they are then spooked by Suzanne watching them in the doorway.
Oh, Suzanne!
Unable to sleep due to a tummy ache, Sarah goes to help her as we cut to the main studio, as another person calls in, talking about how he was enjoying a sandwich. Yes, this is actually what happens in the film.
I had this sandwich, a cheese and pickle sandwich it was.
Oh, yes.
And, well, it frightened me to buggery, it did.
Obviously amused, Michael brushes this off as a joke call, instructing for only serious ones in the future. Before they can take another though, they have to go right back to Fox Hill, as strange scratching sounds can be heard behind the mother's bed. Before they can investigate though, Kim and Suzanne burst into the room as loud banging can be heard all throughout the house. Rushing downstairs to the location of the sound takes them to the kitchen, which has paper drawings littered all over the floor leading up to the patio doors. In the middle of all these papers, however, is a circle of crayons, a very similar circle to the one in the sitting room. Although before she can make any idea of what's going on, she's jump scared by a cat. Relieved, she even admits that she didn't know the Earlys even had a cat, although when the camera pans up, we can see pipes in the reflection of the glass door. This is one of the movie's very effective spooky moments, as you will always catch this because it stands out like a sore thumb, but nobody on the crew notices it. She's then cut off by the mic handler for a second, as the loud banging noises start up once again. She rushes to go upstairs, but Michael stops her from doing so, stating that Suzanne has gotten out of bed, but she hasn't actually left the room.
Once we hear that Suzanne's got out of bed, but she's not yet
Stay
appeared.
there, I don't know why.
She's not appeared on the landing.
Panning through each camera, we eventually come to the one in the staircase hallway, only to find this.
I'm down.
Okay.
It seems that this ghost hunt was nothing more than a hoax, and this is enough for Michael to brush this off as nonsense. However, Lynn is quick to point out that this one little thing doesn't explain the countless other anomalies that we've seen so far.
Let's not be too hasty.
Oh, come on, Doctor, please. We surely got to accept
No,
we
I
saw
don't.
it there.
Look, this is an established pattern.
They take everyone downstairs, and Michael is quick to fire rapid questions at Suzanne, who doesn't cooperate. With one last look at Sarah, the feed cuts off. We are left in the studio to recapture our thoughts. Although, Silver Street is very keen to chastise Lynn for her beliefs.
Well, I don't get any vicarious thrill out of seeing parapsychology crucified in public, but it does validate my hypothesis.
What hypothesis?
These are disturbed detention seekers.
Rubbish.
You played into their hands. Primetime TV, Alice in Wonderland couldn't take it anymore. The end of illusion.
This is not the end, please believe me. I almost feel whatever's in there, it's deliberately muddying the waters.
Afterwards, Michael goes onto the call-in center, which has erupted into total chaos. Multiple callers, all giving the same description for the sighting within the first footage. A bald man with bloody eyes or even holes where they should be, wearing a large black dress. Lynn requests to specifically see a bit of footage that she recorded at the university where she interviewed the daughters. And while they look for that, they take another live interview as she gives her story.
House, which made the situation worse in a way because
Wait, can we just clear the set? Yeah, well, something's gone very wrong with that ghost story.
So instead, they decide to do a call-in. Panicked, this woman explains how her glass table exploded with her husband on the floor with blood painted all over the walls.
My husband just rested one finger on it and it exploded. Face and hands were cut. There's blood on the wallpaper. The ambulance has just gone. My children are frightened. Why are you doing this?
Now, look, I'm sure your children are in shock. Also, I want to say, I think it's high time probably that your kids were in bed. I mean, it is past the 9 o'clock watershed, isn't it?
That's it. That's just it. They won't go to bed. I can't drag them away from the TV. I tell them to look what time it is, but the clock still shows 9:30.
Excuse me, have all your clocks stopped?
I don't know what's going on. They won't take their eyes off the set. And there's blood. There's blood all over the wallpaper.
She mentioned how her kids won't stop watching the television, ignoring her request to stop, mentioning how her clocks have also stopped at 9:30, a frequent pattern with the hauntings all at the same time. The weird thing though about this case is the caller could be all across the UK from Fox Hill, and she too yet is experiencing paranormal issues. And this is a reoccurring thing that many callers experience since tuning into Ghostwatch. While Lynn is obviously concerned about the patterns that we are witnessing, Michael is more concerned about her putting her children to bed, announcing that the chances that you could be encountering ghosts is a very rare situation, and that there is a rational explanation for most of these. But he also states,
Please, we don't want to give anybody sleepless nights. We don't want to start panic. Don't let your imaginations run riot. These things we're talking about are very, very rare indeed. And the chance of them happening to you are exceedingly remote.
And this is pretty ironic, and I will touch upon it later. Finally, after all of this, Dr. Pascoe's requested tape is available, where she's interviewing Kim, who describes Pipes the same way. A bald old man with a bloody and scratched face wearing a black dress, mirroring the call's description. And here is where it is confirmed to be only one ghost in the house. Pipes is that woman in the start. It was always him. Michael asks if they could have gotten it just from the newspapers, but Lynn confirms they actually never posted the description in the papers. She also proposes the idea that Pipes could be specifically targeting Kim and not Susan, and this would make sense considering that we've consistently seen Kim speaking with Pipes throughout the movie so far. But before we have time to contemplate that idea, we are rushed back into the house. Sarah and Pam must have been discussing the cat situation that they had, as when the camera cuts to them, Pam tells Sarah about how they're hearing cats scuttling around the house all the time. Right as she says this, the same sounds of cats can be heard, looping on top of one another.
On the ceiling.
Can you hear anything,
Yes.
Sarah?
Yeah, I can hear it now. She's right.
Mum,
What is it, Kimmy?
what's wrong with Susie?
What do you mean? What's wrong, Kimmy?
They all rush upstairs, only to find that she is now covered in all of those marks again. Michael again accuses her of self-inflicting these with her fingernails.
Could be self-mutilation. She could have done it with her own fingernails, you know.
Fingernails? What flaming fingernails?
Suzanne seems to be in a state of shock. They contemplate leaving the house, but Kim says that Pipes has demanded that they stay in the house.
No, we don't. Get it off! I've got to talk to somebody.
Who? Kim, who are you talking to?
Pipes.
Where's Pipes?
Here.
What does he look like, Kimmy?
Somebody's mum.
Kimmy, it's time to go.
I'd like somebody to take care of Suzanne as well. And please, let's have the kids out of the house, please.
Come on. Downstairs. Just outside.
Kim, though, refuses to leave, shouting that Pipes wants to see everybody, and everybody wants to see Pipes.
Pipes says we've got to stay. Pipes wants to see everybody. Look, everybody wants to see him.
It seems the spirit is eager to have eyes on it. Back to the studio, the call-in center is in complete and total disarray, with people saying that their clocks have stopped, radios, ovens going haywire, pets going crazy, and kids seemingly in a trance, destroying glasses. It almost seems like Pam trying to drag her kids out of the house is making the spirit angry, and is taking it out on anybody who he can, including the watchers of the program. But Michael is quick to brush all these off as hoaxes, and we get back to the house, seeing that they were unsuccessful to get everyone
I can
out.
hardly hear you. You can hear what I'm saying. Suzanne's a lot quieter now, but they won't move. What do I do? I can't leave them. I'm sorry, I've got to take this out. It's making terrible noise. I don't know what's going on.
The house erupts into a choir of banging. On the walls, in the ceiling, as we begin to see that confident shield in Sarah slowly begin to break. It's clear that the events that she's seeing so far are starting to get to her. But as quickly as it started, the thudding stops. We now see Pam with Suzanne crouched by the chair.
Stop it! Stop it, Susie!
This also goes into that statement from earlier about Pipes wanting to have all eyes on him, even going so far as to take over living host to do so. While all this is happening, Sarah is frantically searching for Kim, who at this point has vanished. She eventually finds her in the completely wrecked kitchen.
Pipes said to do it. Pipes says he was a bad Bobby. Here are his eyes.
Oh. What's that noise? Right, where's it coming from?
Look at... It's just like an earthquake.
Immediately, we can hear the cat screaming again, and Mike corners the sound into the cubbyhole. Frantically, him and Sarah both work together to rip the boards off the door as it opens up on its own, and we see Pipes inside, just staring out back at everybody. Suddenly, off-screen, the mirror is thrown at Mike as he's left on the floor bloodied, as the voice of Suzanne can be heard begging for help, stating that Pipes is hurting her, although she is nowhere to be found. The feed goes dead as we are taken outside of the home. While the studios go absolutely nuts trying to get the feed working again, Craig and a Ghostwatch cast member note that there doesn't actually seem to be anything going on and that the house seems peaceful on the inside.
It all seems very quiet and peaceful.
Seemingly unaware of the horrors that's been going on. Before they can say anything more, the feed jumps back up and we're taken back to the sitting room where everybody is inside playing a board game peacefully. Everyone in the studio breathes a sigh of relief. Smith wants to speak to Sarah, and Parkinson would also like to talk to her as well, although they cannot change any of the other cameras, and they can't even interact with her. They take one more call.
Hello, your name is?
I don't want to give my name, but I think I have some information for you about the history of the house.
Oh, well, we've been into all that. We've got the deeds and searches going back to the year it was built.
Do you know Mr. and Mrs. Sellers?
Yes, they're on our list of tenants. They lived there in the 60s, I think.
Did you know they sublet a room?
I didn't know that.
Being illegal, it wouldn't be on the official records. The lodger was their nephew, Raymond Tunstall.
How do you know him? Why are you calling, sir?
I worked as a social worker when he came out of psychiatric hospital. He had several convictions for molestation, aggravated abuse, abduction of minors. He should never have been let anywhere near any community. He was a very disturbed man, in my opinion. From the time he moved to Foxhill Drive, he developed paranoid fantasies. He used to tell me there was a woman on the inside of his body taking over his thoughts and actions, making him do things he didn't want to do. He started to wear dresses. The delusions got so bad, there was only one way to escape them. Tunstall hanged himself, tied wire around his neck to a lathe and switched it on. Did it where he kept his tools, under the stairs. It was 12 days before anybody found it. They heard the cats screaming. He had about a dozen cats. The cats were locked in, of course. And of course, they got hungry. They got to work on his face.
Michael is completely done, brushing up the whole thing as total nonsense. To him, they've been bombarded with nothing but hoaxes and joke calls, before instructing Lynn to tell him what's going on since she is the expert and she clearly knows so much. This is such an asshole thing to ask someone. Oh, you're the expert? Then you tell me what's going on. Like, fuck off, bro. Obviously, she doesn't know what's going on. However, something does catch her eye. The footage. There's something off about it. The picture is still on the wall. Wait a minute, this is old footage. He's in the electronics. The illusion has been shattered.
What is? Of course we're calling the shots anymore. We don't be silly.
A violent wind breaks through the studio as we see Mike get gurneyed into an ambulance at Foxhill. Everybody is out of the house now, apart from Sarah, the cameraman, and Suzanne. We cut to inside the house, which is in total darkness, looking through the heat vision camera. As they wander the halls, we can see the house that is now completely trashed. As the voice of Suzanne can be heard, lights in the studio start exploding while glasses on the tub are being flung off of the table. Susan's pleas can be heard from inside of the cubbyhole. As she tries to open the door, it violently flings open, with Suzanne's voice echoing from inside. Seemingly putting her into a trance, Sarah goes into the door. Lights exploding, things being thrown, the violent wind. Pipes has total control of the studio as it's completely plunged into darkness. And well, I think it's just best to play the clip.
We've got some lights in the studio. I don't know. There's cameras, but I don't know which one's working. I mean, there are no cameramen. This is the scene in this studio, this totally deserted studio. Water cube's working. Round and round the garden, like a teddy bear.
I gotta be honest, I love Ghostwatch. When I first saw this, I thought it was going to be another one of those dime a dozen found footage horror movies, but the contents of this really surprised me. It's a bit of a slow burner, but once it picks up, it really starts going. I thoroughly enjoyed what I saw. There's so many little details that I want to talk about, like how the story fully comes together in the end. There really isn't anything in this film that feels unnecessary, you know, apart from the sandwich call. There's so many different types of movie magic at work, which this film would end up revolutionizing for the genre as a whole. It really holds a special place in horror, if you ask me, and this is in due part to the very respectable people playing the characters, as you have people like the late Michael Parkinson, Sarah Green, and the late Mike Smith, all playing themselves. There really isn't any movies that I can think of off the top of my head that does this too. The earlies played their part all very well, but the main thing that steals the show, if you ask me, is its antagonist. Pipes is a special kind of antagonist. He does so much with the little time that he has. The general idea amongst the fan base for this film is that he only shows 8 times. However, he shows up 9. I think that it's so insane that all he needs is 9 scenes to make such an impactful appearance throughout the entire film. His presence is really sensed throughout the whole thing. Whether it's right at the start with the original footage, or later on when you can see him for a split second only for the camera to go back for him to vanish a moment later. He's such a fascinating character to me, demanding to Kim that she makes everyone stay in the house, even going to the point where he corrupts footage of other people giving their interviews, events that have nothing to do with him.
Talk about an attention seeker.
Someone should really give this ghost a YouTube channel. And once he has full control, he will do anything he can in what seems to be an act of spitefulness to keep all eyes on him, even going so far as to infect the electronic just to make you stay watching, to make you keep your eyes on Pipes. And when all is said and done, the only thing that he has to say, you didn't believe the stories, did you? Now, to those who know their ghost stories, they probably draw a connection to this and the infamous case of the Enfield haunting. In the late 70s, 284 Green Street would encounter a paranormal entity that would torture the family of 5 who rented the home. The spirit specifically targeting the 2 daughters, Janet and Margaret, with occurrences such as furniture being moved, knocking sounds, as well as one of the daughters being possessed. The similarity between the Enfield haunting and this movie's plot is anything but a coincidence, as Ghostwatch was inspired heavily by the real-life case. Many movies would also use Ghostwatch as inspiration, whether it's movies like Late Night with the Devil, or minor plot elements like The Woman from The Conjuring 2. Little things like this really helps this movie stand proud in history as an influential piece of media. However, that isn't the only reason this thing has a spot in history. As I mentioned earlier about the irony of the Sleepless Nights line, with me mentioning that I would talk about it later, well, now is later. On Sunday the 30th of October, 1938, the American radio station CBS would broadcast a dramatic reading of the H.G. Wells novel, The War of the Worlds. The broadcast would take on a much more dramatized approach to the story, using simulated news bulletins and sound effects, which would achieve the sense of realism that really sold this to the people as an actual news broadcast. For those who tuned in from the start, they would know it was nothing more than a dramatic reading. However, those who joined the broadcast midway thought it was 100% genuine, and this would cause a complete widespread panic with people fleeing their homes, destroying properties, contacting authorities, acting like the world was really ending. These people genuinely believed they were getting invaded by aliens. Although it is suggested that the overall panic and hysteria was somewhat exaggerated. Why am I talking about this somewhat unrelated radio broadcast almost 100 years ago? Well, that's because Ghostwatch would fall under the same scrutiny as well as the story. Nowhere near the same extent as The War of the Worlds did, but this fucked up the UK viewers that watched it back in the 90s. Over 10 million viewers were drawn into the horror that was this movie, and with it absolutely selling itself as an in-universe documentary, it's no surprise why people thought this was real. And after its air, BBC would place it under a 10-year ban. This would be for a variety of reasons, like Suzanne's slashed up face, talks of mutilated animals, self-deletion, and many complaints from viewers who believed that this was a real-time documentary. And this would only get worse when an 18-year-old boy would end up taking his own life. Martin Denham was described as a nervous boy who believed that there were ghosts in his home, who was also described as having the mental age of a 13-year-old. And when he watched this movie, he was really into it. He was just gone. I had to keep asking him if he was alright. That night, the boy would insist on having his bedroom light on, something he had never done before. He was also paranoid about the sound of the central heating pipes in the house, something that would also be a major plot point in the mockumentary. He was too convinced about the contents of the film as genuine, and on November 5th would be found hanging from a tree near his home using a plastic hose pipe, and in his back pocket there was a note. "Please don't worry. If there are ghosts, I will be a ghost, and I will be with you always as a ghost." Percy Denham would end up pointing the blame at the broadcast company. "In my own mind, I hold the BBC completely responsible for his death, but I won't be suing them. I cannot afford it." The BBC would go on to state the program was clearly advertised as a fictional film. "It is a very sad time for the family, and we do not think it would be helpful to add any further public comment." While this movie is a work of fiction, this tragedy is very much a reality. And Ghostwatch would stay banned for the next 10 years. And I fully believe that this incident massively contributed to that factor. It is such a tragedy. And honestly, it casts a very dark, ominous shadow over Ghostwatch. I love Ghostwatch. I think that this is one of the most unique movies that I have ever seen. The only other movies I can think of off the top of my head is 1994's Without Warning and 1989's McPherson Tapes. Both alien found footage movies being pioneers of their times, as people would also believe these two to be real.
People were just really gullible in the late 20th century, weren't they?
Oh. I think this is a very special movie that established a lot of tropes that can still be seen years later in modern films. And I have my mother to thank for showing me this movie, so yeah, shout out to Mumsy. I feel that I have said everything I need to say about this. This is a film that I cannot recommend for you enough to watch. For those really wanting a solid horror watch, go see Ghostwatch. It's like less than £3 on Amazon Prime. Oh, you know.
And that's it. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this Halloween. I would like to put a thank you towards the channel members, specifically the tier 3 members, that being Monkey, Meme Toru, and Chill Dog. Your love and support is greatly appreciated, and to everyone else in here who are subscribed and are watching the video at the moment. Remember to join the Discord to interact with other people in the community. If you enjoyed it, why not sub to the channel? It helps me greatly, and I would appreciate it a lot.
I worked on this video long enough.
Comment, as it very much helps me in the algorithm. Share it to someone who you fucking hate, and I will see you in the next one. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Just kidding, it wasn't the last one I lied!